Hey, Mrs. Nut and Fancy, you having a good time?
Yep.
Turn and say hi to the crew.
I love adventuring.
Okay, now be honest. Do you like doing this? Turn and look at the camera.
Yeah, I love it.
She is so lying. She does not like this. This is the first time she's ever been in the Sea Eagle TC16. That's good right there, hon. Just let us float here for a sec. And wouldn't you know it, we've been getting drenched. We're on a high mountain lake for this review. First time ever this boat has been on a lake. That is no lie. We've had the boat for 2 years. We purchased it. Sea Eagle did not donate it to us for a TPA review. No, it's our boat. We may keep it, we may sell it. I'm deciding. I sure do love it, and I'm going to tell you why in this feature-length Nut and Fancy on lake review. On lake review. And we're going to have a good time, and thankfully the weather's getting a little bit better. We were getting rained on pretty hard. Ain't that right, Mrs.?
Yep.
Beautiful scenery around us. Temperature is relatively warm. You might catch a glimpse of my sexy legs. That's a bonus. I'm not even going to charge extra for that. Should I? Hun?
I can see my breath.
Dude, I guess it's not that warm if I'm seeing your breath.
Yep.
Mrs. Nut and Fancy is a trooper, even though she, here, turn and look, hon. Even though she's not really into this, she's a trooper and she will not complain. Oh, look at that. There's a, hold on, turn. I want to show them the knife on that I have clipped on the PFD. So that's a Camilla's Heat rescue knife, and she's wearing my PFD right now.
Totally fits.
And we're big proponents of water safety. I've talked about it lots. So much to talk about. So much to talk about on an inflatable canoe.
We better not get in a picture taking of us.
What's that?
Yahoos up there and everything.
I don't know what she's saying. Okay, so why would you go out and buy an inflatable canoe? Well, and that's where we're going to start this review. And we're going to bounce to a lot of different areas. And I'm going to show you inset footage of the last 2 years of testing the Sea Eagle TC16 and the Nut and Fancy project. Thanks, by the way, to TMP Patreon members keeping the project going. Join, be elite, keeps me motivated. The link is below. 2 years of testing of the TC16 for sure. And again, it's been on rivers and whitewater. First time on a lake right here, right now. The reason you might want to consider getting an inflatable canoe is number one, storage. This is a much easier canoe to store. You might see some hard traditional canoes come out on the lake. They kind of skedaddled when the rain started pouring down. You got to talk real loud. We can't hear you.
That guy over there, they huddled out in the trees too.
Oh yeah, there's a couple SUPs over here that are they took shelter in that tree. Well, that's cool. It's easier to store. So if you buy a traditional fiberglass or aluminum canoe, something, by the way, that I grew up with aluminum canoes, Grummins, duck hunted out of them, whitewatered in them, swamped them, laked in them. They were great. I really enjoyed them. But dang, they take up a lot of room to store. How much room do you have at your house to store a canoe? Or an apartment or a condominium? Probably not that much. The beauty of one of the many advantages of the Sea Eagle TC16 is that it can compact down to a square that basically measures, I wrote it down here, 40 inches by 24 inches by 16 inches as it comes to you from the factory. In our experience, of course, it's going to be larger once you roll it up, but it's still pretty close to those dimensions. So you can put that in a closet, in a part of your garage, down in the basement. It stores so much easier. Also, transportation of the TC16 is pretty easy because all you're taking along is a folded pack. And then when you get to your location, it's going to take about 10 minutes for you to inflate it, set it up, inflate the seats, and get it ready to go. You don't need to put it on top of your car, scratching up your SUV, get a trailer, and all the other things you have to do with a traditional hard-sided canoe. Those are big advantages. Another advantage is that it's only 60 pounds. So this is a very lightweight canoe. It is actually manageable by one person, kind of. And I say kind of because if you set it up on the beach like we have over here near the parking lot, to get it down to the water, it's kind of a haul. I recommend you get dolly wheels, and that's a really easy way to get it down to the water. But with two people, no big deal. I mean, Jardine and I, a TMP crew member who whitewatered with me on the river, he and I ported this thing all over the place, and I have lots of footage that I'll be showing you of us doing just that. Mrs. Nut and Fancy, how was this thing to carry?
Good.
Talk real loud.
Good. Too heavy. It's easily carried.
Yeah, and she's tiny. How tall are you?
5 feet. Which makes it makes it a little bit difficult because of, I mean, I pull it up like pretty much just 2 inches off the ground, if that, to carry it.
Yeah. She managed though. We didn't have like a ton of gear in it. We did have some for sure. If you like saddle it up with a bunch of, I don't know, camping gear, then it's going to be more difficult. But easily managed by one person, easier to transport, easier storage. By the way, this thing is safer than a normal canoe, says me. That's because, not we're going to do it, we could actually flip this thing over in the water and it will not sink. It has 3 air chambers, drop stitched, high quality airtight chambers. I'll talk about drop stitching here in a second. And you can fill this thing with water and it will not sink. It will kind of swamp, but because it's inflatable, to set it right side up is actually a much easier procedure than it is on a traditional canoe. That's the voice of experience. You do realize I'm reviewing over here, huh? Is that right? What did you just say? Tell the camera, because everyone's watching and you're making observations.
Just that kid, there was a kid on the bank and he slid down like 4 feet. He's almost going into the water. He's scrambling to get back up.
Okay, like we predicted, here comes the traditional canoe brigade out on the water now that the rain has stopped. So this is a good opportunity to talk about that. So if you swamp one of those things, it's a procedure to get it going again. It's a procedure. If you do it in a river, you can pretty much forget about it. And by the way, I grew up learning that. It did not work. I mean, we swamped our Grumman multiple times. We had to drag it all the way to shore to get it going again. Yeah. So much easier to get back into, will not sink. It also carries more. This boat is actually rated to 915 pounds. Since I weigh 400 pounds, Mrs. Nut and Fancy weighs, what are you, like 85 pounds? I'm kidding. I'm like 210 right now. She's like 100 pounds. So that gives us a lot of carrying capacity. I have one of my dry cases here. It's all douched from the rain, of course. So it's going to have usually more carrying capacity than a traditional canoe. That's another advantage. And then we already talked about how it is lighter, much lighter. Those are some of the reasons why you might want to consider getting an inflatable Seagull TC16. Here's another one too. It's different. Don't you think, Mrs. Nutton?
Yeah.
How many TC16s have we seen in the last 2 years testing this?
0.
0. None. And that's kind of cool. It's kind of a second cool thing.
Okay, I'm
And that will take us philosophy of use. What would you use this boat for? Well, I think most people would get it for what we're doing right here. Recreational canoeing.
Here we go.
Going out on the lake, getting drenched by a rainstorm,
Nice, low center of gravity.
freezing. Okay, I made that last part up. We're not exactly freezing, but getting out on the lake is fun. And then recreationally, you can engage in, I don't know, such crazy things as water wars.
Yeah, it is, isn't
And
it?
we are armed on the lake with one of my stream machines.
Agreed.
Check this out. Yeah, we're not anticipating problems, but should we have any, we're going to be ready. We have been out on this lake before, and people will engage in water wars, which is always welcome, actually. And this is a great battleship from which to fight. Don't you think, Mrs. Nutton? So it'll carry up to 3 people, your TC16. It's relatively stable. I'm going to visit that again. And it's just fun. It's getting out in the sun. Doesn't cost that much compared to a regular boat. It's way more affordable recreationally. Here comes some canoes. Are those canoes or hardside kayaks? I can't really tell yet. You could take your TC16 and go fishing out of it. There are some fish here. They just stock it with rainbow trout. It's fished out every year and then they restock it. We're not going to be doing that. Adventuring, like if you want to take it camping, going somewhere, highly recommended. With 2 people, you'll have enough room for your packs. So right behind me as well, you can see I've got storage room back here. So we can store some packs here. Here, I recommend lashing them to one of the many D-rings that are located throughout the boat. Because if you do flip it, you don't want your dry bags going floating down the river or the lake or wherever. So camping, adventuring, yes. Great for family outings, like family reunions. Holy cow, we got some sun coming out, missus. That's cool. You can start paddling to that far lake, or that far side, please, hon. Hunting. Would I hunt out of a TC16 in Alaska? Yeah, I would actually. I wouldn't mind hunting out of this. I think it's got enough room. I don't know if I want to carry a moose, gear, and 2 people in it. It will not have that capability. You can take your hood off, honey, hun. She's all bundled up for the winter conditions. And a whole bunch of other stuff. Whitewater canoeing for sure. And we've demoed that in TMP through the years. Go check those videos out, by the way. One thing the TC16 has, I don't know, you can't see it right now, but I'll show you an inset footage. And their fast track kayaks, inflatable kayaks also have that. That's good right there, hun. Is a removable skeg. And what that does is allow the canoe to track straighter than without it. And I have paddled this thing around in a test without it, and it didn't do so great. The downside with that skeg is if you go into whitewater area where the water gets shallow and you have rocks and stuff, be careful you don't break it. So you really need to be aware of how deep your water is before you run that skeg. It doesn't take a lot of power to get this thing going, at least on calm water, which we are on right now. Tracking, I think, beats a regular canoe. It does. I have paddled a lot of regular canoes, both aluminum again and fiberglass canoes, and this seems like probably due to the skeg, and also it has a flat board on the bottom. It seems like it tracks better. The downside to that is changing directions on the TC16 takes a little bit of effort. Demo that, hun. So when you pass this one little bush right here, swing that bow to the left. So give me a wide stroke. There you go. Mrs. Nut and Fancy's learning how to do the canoe thing. She's a novice. There you go. Stretch that paddle out as far as you can. So you see how that bow doesn't really want to track? So I'm going to help her out by a back stroke here. Hold on, stop paddling. You're going to take us right into that tree. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. So it tracks very straight, very true, but a little bit of a downside is it will not want to change directions. Let's talk about stability. So she has her seat actually flipped upside down. She's sitting on the more narrow portion, the backrest. That is intentional because it puts her lower in the boat. It lowers the center of gravity. The one thing I do find about the TC16 is it is a little bit jouncy, don't you think, hun?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. You have to have kind of a sense of balance when you're in this thing. For me, I am actually sitting on the inflatable seat right now. You can see it. This is one of the very few times I've ever used it. Normally myself and Jardine, we're sitting on the floor of the TC16 to get our center of gravity down really low, and that gives us more stability. Another thing I've added to the boat that was really needed, and I don't see the company talking about it, I don't see any reviewers talking about it, in the TC16
Easy breezy.
were these cross straps.
Oh, there's a lot of people on the...
So these are nylon straps that I put in here. And what that does is it prevents the sides of the boat from splaying out. And that's what we found when we were doing whitewater. And that's under full inflation. So we're running like 10 PSI in the boat, and we would still splay out a little bit. By putting those nylon cross straps across the D-rings, it holds the sides of the boat together so much better. You might want to do that if you get one. And again, we usually don't use these. We're sitting on the floor to lower our center of gravity. Out on the lake though, doable, but you just kind of got to watch your center balance, because it's not like you could just stand up and, you know, I don't know, goof around. Do you think not, Mrs.? Hold on a second. Can you flip around so we can see you?
Scare you.
So stability wise, it's pretty good. You'll get used to it, but it's not like the Zodiac that I also reviewed, like the Futura. You can get up and walk around and not be particular about your balance at all. It's so stable. All those large rafts are, but when you get into this inflatable TC16, you got this. So you can flip it. You can dunk yourself in the water. It's not inherently unstable. You can see that it wants to self-right, but you just need a little practice. You just keep your center of balance and you're good to go. And that's pretty similar to all canoes, don't you think, Mrs. Nuttin Fancy? Very similar. But like I said, we normally aren't running these except, well, apparently on the lake. We put them here on the lake. Now, let me talk about the fabric and what makes this so special. This is actually emergency contact here in whitewater in case the boat ever separates from us. There's name and address under here so people could get the boat back to us, in case you're wondering what that's about. Now you see these little dimples in the 1000 denier fabric of the TC16, see that? Those are actually polyester drop stitches. And what that means is you actually have threads inside the fabric that attach to the interior and exterior. And then when you inflate the boat, it tightens those threads and it makes for a very firm surface. See how stiff that is? If you've never seen this before, it's actually pretty remarkable. This stuff is amazing. The first time I ever saw it was in the mid-1990s with the Fast Rollers by Zodiac. And the Zodiac came out with this technology, I think. The floor is the same way. You see that? And the floor is really hard. And it was just really amazing. And the Fast Roller by Zodiac back then was designed for yachters that didn't want a full inflated dinghy all the time, so they roll it up, i.e. the name Fast Roller. And then when you got out on the water, you still had a stiff, just like we do now, inflatable boat that can actually take a motor. I'm talking those Zodiacs and other boats like it. And it's really a cool technology. It's still lightweight, only 60 pounds. You will inflate this to pressure. You want to put 10 PSI in the TC16. And that's really important, by the way. We have ran it where it was not fully inflated and it kind of noodles a little bit. So it'll kind of undulate over the rapids, and you know, lo and behold, Jardine and I would have to pull off to the side, port the boat out of the water, break out the pump and top it off. So we had a nice, tight, rigid boat. And that may happen when you put it in cold water. So you may inflate it to like 10 PSI and then you get to really cold water. Lo and behold, the air contracts and the boat becomes a little bit more flaccid. My wife's worst word ever. She hates that word. Flaccid. Now what you get with a TC16 are 2 inflatable seats. I think this one, by the way, is a replacement seat. I lost the other one, don't know where it went. I had to order that from Sea Eagle Direct. Normally that would have Velcro on the bottom to mate to the bottom. See that right there? So you'll get 2 high pressure seats. So those also will inflate. They're also drop stitch as well. They're very comfortable. They'll snap into the D-rings, although we're not really demoing it officially here on the water. I may put in some inset footage, and they're really cool. You'll get 2 paddles, you'll get a repair kit, and then you get a high pressure pump. And that's kind of a large cylindrical pump that you can inflate the whole boat with, and that works just fine. But what we do is we'll take a high pressure air inflator. I shouldn't say high pressure, but high volume air inflator. I run it off a motorcycle battery. I'll put in footage, and we inflate with that 90%. And then once it can't put any more air in, we top it off with a high pressure foot pump, and that works. Now Sea Eagle will say this thing is rated for class 4 rapids. I have not tested out this boat in class 4, nor would I want to. I will say Jardine and I did launch on the Provo River in flood stage in 2017, and ask Mike about this. We scared ourselves. It was scary. We went around a bend and saw what was waiting for us under a railroad trestle. Good story. And I said, paddle quick. We need to go to that left bank now or we're going to swamp, because the water was at flood stage really fast. We were in this very boat and we paddled as fast as we could and barely made the bank. And even still, water started pouring into the back portion of the TC16. We almost lost a boat. We lost some gear out of it. We lost our paddles. But that was much preferred as to going through that trestle, because I think what would have happened is we would have gone sideways and the boat would have been wrapped around one of the supports of the trestle with that really high volume whitewater. It was pretty scary. And I actually did have a GoPro on at the time, and the GoPro was ripped off my head and I lost it later on that trip. So that's very sad that I don't have that footage, because it was a freaking adventure. No, have not done class 4 rapids. Not sure. Again, I really want to. I would take it to class 3. I'm not like Joe Whitewater. I'm really not. I'm a recreational canoeist, recreational kayaker. But you could do it. It does have 4 drain valves in the floor. So you can open it up. It's designed to self-drain. If you do take it in whitewater, just prepare to be wet. So if it's cold water, you might want to dry suit up. That's what I've done in the Provo River early in the season. But it will self-drain, just like a lot of their fast track inflatable kayaks will do. Now the dimension of this is 38 inches wide, 20 inches deep. The sides of the boat angle at 15 degrees. And they're, I think, tall enough to pretty much prevent disaster with moderate waves and moderate whitewater. I think I have some GoPro footage of when we're rocking through, not some gnarly whitewater, but just some whitewater. And we did take on a little water, but not too much. Again, if you think you're going to get wet, open up your drain valves and just make it a wet ride. I forgot to tell you also that it does have full-length chines on the bottom of the boat. That's another reason that it wants to keep and maintain its track. And then it has spray skirts in the bow and in the stern as well, where the carry handles are. Really a cool technology. My overall take on this boat, after over 2 years of ownership and use, is that it's very high quality. This is not a hokey boat. Like, everything is glued properly. Nothing has come unglued. The fabric is top notch. All the seams are perfectly done. I took a Vulcan hit on a rock up on the bow, and I just put a freaking piece of helicopter tape on it to repair it, and it's held perfectly. Maybe I show you that in inset footage as well. I love the color of it. It's a dark green color. I think another color they should do, which would be super cool, but I don't know if everyone else would like it, is orange. Wrapping up the review on the Sea Eagle TC16, Mrs. Nut and Fancy. You look like your hair's a little bit wet there.
Yeah, everything's a little bit wet.
We were getting rained on pretty hard, weren't we? We kind of retreated to one part of the lake, hoping to stay dry. It did not work, but it only lasted a few minutes, so we're good. Good to go. Hey, will you come out with me a lot in the canoe?
Sometimes.
Do you like this or not like it?
It's all right.
Well, what do you not like about it?
I don't know. It's fine.
Oh, that's cool times, man. Come.
Take a snooze, I guess.
There's a mallard ducky that just landed over there. I don't know if I'll sign off on the water safety I'm seeing out here on the lake. Where'd those girls go? I'm gonna stand up paddle boarders with no PFDs on.
Those girls don't have
Woo! I don't know if I like that.
paddle.
Huh?
Those girls in front of us, those 3 girls that are just sitting there.
They don't even have a paddle?
They have 1 paddle, and there's 3 people on the paddleboard.
And they've got no PFDs on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're invincible when you're a teenager, don't you know?
Say that again?
Said you're invincible when you're a teenager. When you're a teenager, do you not remember that?
It seems like every year in Utah, I don't want to have a downer, but there are problems when people fall in these cold mountain lakes. Some do not come out. Just saying, be safe, wear your PFDs, and there you go. That's a TC16 in lake review. Mrs. Nut and Fancy, Nut and Fancy. Thanks for being TNP Patreon. Thanks for following me in all the adventures. We have 13 years of TNP under our belts. Lots and lots more to go. Lots to go. So we've done motorcycling, whitewater rafting, oceanic boating on the Zodiac Pro Open 550. Go check out that review. She helped me with that review too in Lake Oroville. You remember that, Mrs. Nutton? That was good times. So we love the water, we love adventuring, we love the outdoors. TC16 is a total win. Very few disadvantages that I can think of. None fancy. Signing off from the mountains, from the lake, over and out. Glad I bought my dry bag.